ChatGPT said. Imagine a wall that seems to breathe, its surface alive with shifting planes and secret depths, even though it's made entirely of solid wood. At first glance, you see a network of angles and curves, triangles and trapezoids carved into panels of warm timber. But as your eyes wander, you realize those shapes aren't fixed, they're optical illusions. Some edges appear to recede into the wall, others thrust forward, creating the unmistakable sense that this wooden tapestry is folding in and out of itself. This is the magic of abstract illusion wood wall pieces, art that plays with perspective and geometry, using the natural richness of wood to blur the line between the real and the impossible. Each installation begins with a simple ambition: to challenge what a flat wall can feel like. Artists start by conceiving patterns, often rooted in geometric principles like the Penrose triangle, tessellations, or impossible staircases, then translate those into wood. The initial designs might emerge from hand sketches on graph paper or 3D models on a computer screen, where angles can be tested and shadow studies run under virtual light. Once the blueprint feels right, it's time to bring it into the real world. The material is almost always high-quality hardwood, maple, oak, walnut, or stable plywood with an attractive veneer, chosen for its smooth surface, longevity, and ability to take a fine finish. Each tile or segment is cut precisely, usually with a CNC router or laser cutter for the tightest tolerances. These machines carve both the visible planes and the hidden relief that makes a flat board come alive with dimensional trickery. On the backside, a shallow channel is often routed out to allow the piece to sit flush against the wall while the front planes swell outward, creating the illusion of depth without actually protruding far enough to snag a sleeve. Once cut, the real craft begins. Every edge is hand-sanded, first with coarse grit to remove any machine marks, then through progressively finer papers until it's silky smooth. Corners meant to catch light are given slightly sharper angles. Those meant to fade into shadow are softened. Some makers lightly chamfer the very tips of ridges so that highlights stand out crisply, while others burnish the inside valleys to absorb stray light and deepen the illusion that those regions are farther away. Finishing varies by vision. A natural oil or wax finish lets the grain shine through in its full glory, with growth rings and color variations adding richness to each plane. In more dramatic installations, panels are painted in alternating tones, sometimes two contrasting colors, sometimes a gradient that shifts subtly across the wall, so that the eye is drawn along particular lines, only to have perspective reverse and trick you into seeing shapes that aren't physically there. A matte finish is essential. Gloss would betray the surface's flatness by producing too harsh reflections. Installation is as choreographed as the carving. Panels come anchored to the wall with French cleats or hidden Z-clips, sturdy hardware that locks each piece in place at just the right angle. Aligning the illusion requires a level, a laser, and often colored chalk to mark reference lines, because a mere millimeter off and an impossible corner can collapse into a plain flat seam. Technicians install each segment in sequence, sometimes dozens or even hundreds of them, until the entire pattern sweeps across the wall in a perfect, unbroken dance. When complete, the effect is astonishing. A hallway wall might seem to ripple like a folded scroll. In a living room, the area behind the sofa can look like a three-dimensional puzzle with one box receding into darkness and the next bulging toward you. In entryways, illusion pieces set the tone for a home that values creativity, blending natural warmth with cerebral challenge. Even small installations, say a 100-square-inch cluster above a console, can mesmerize. Visitors stop, they tilt their heads, they trace the rise and fall of each plane, and they find themselves drawn into the paradox, knowing it's wood on drywall, yet perceiving a wave, a fold, a cavity. Lighting is critical to maintaining the illusion. Flat overhead lighting washes out shadows. Instead, most designers recommend directional spotlights or wall-grazing LEDs that cast angled rays across the surface. These lights accentuate ridges and reinforce the sense of depth, making near planes glow and far ones vanish into gentle shadow. Dimmers allow the homeowner to shift the mood, bright light in the morning for clarity, low light in the evening for a more mysterious effect. Maintenance is refreshingly simple. A soft duster or microfiber cloth keeps the surfaces clean. The occasional application of wood oil sustains the finish's warmth. Because the panels fit flush and the joints are so tight, dust seldom collects in noticeable crevices. Over years, the illusion remains just as crisp as the day it was hung, with the added patina of lived-in wood deepening the experience. For the adventurous DIYer, smaller illusion wood pieces can be created at home. Start with a small maple or birch plywood board, plan a simple three-plane fold design, and cut it carefully with a handheld jigsaw, sanding each edge smooth. A light coat of tung oil brings out the grain, and a keyhole hanger makes installation a one-bolt job. The result is a miniature impossible shape that offers the same brain-teasing delight in a cozy corner or above a desk. Professionals push the concept further, mixing illusion with utility. Floating shelves are carved with the same perspective bending planes, appearing to cantilever impossibly from the wall. Headboards above beds become crystalline waves that seem to fold inward. Even cabinet doors disguise storage with a shifting pattern that holds secrets behind what looks like a solid relief sculpture. At the heart of abstract illusion wood wall pieces is the joy of perception, of challenging your brain to reconcile what you see with what you know. Wood, after all, is tactile and real. You can touch it, you can feel its warmth. Yet our eyes, beguiled by carefully crafted angles, lead us to see something that memory warns us cannot exist. That tension, between what is and what seems, is the very essence of these installations. So the next time you consider how to break up a blank wall, or how to inject a sense of wonder into a room, imagine a field of wooden facets that shift perspective with every step, planes that fold onto planes, shadows that suggest voids that aren't there. Abstract illusion wood wall pieces aren't mere decoration. They are invitations to pause, to question, and to marvel at the hidden possibilities lying within simple materials. And as light and time move across them, those possibilities will continue to unfold anew, day after day, glance after glance. An abstract illusion wood wall piece isn't there to hold your books or hide your keys. It's there to mess with your head, gently, artfully, and with all the subtle arrogance that comes from knowing it looks different every time you glance at it. At first, you see simple wood shapes, cubes, wedges, or layered strips. Then the light shifts, or you take 2 steps to the left and the whole thing flips. Shadows move, angles flip inside out, and a flat wall looks like it just sprouted depth out of nowhere. It starts with plain timber, usually hardwoods that hold sharp edges and stay stable even when carved thin or pieced together at odd angles. Oak, maple, ash. Sometimes reclaimed scraps, sometimes clean new boards cut with ruthless precision. The magic isn't in the wood itself, but in how you arrange it. Stacked planes, staggered slices, floating blocks that trick the eye into seeing hollows and ridges that don't really exist. Some pieces play with geometry. Triangles arranged in such a way that your brain stitches them into a 3D pyramid when it's actually just flat faces catching light differently. Others build with depth for real, layered blocks sticking out at random lengths, but so cleverly balanced that shadows fall where your mind least expects them. The finish is almost always minimal. Bare wood, maybe a matte oil or clear sealer. Some makers burn the grain slightly to deepen contrast. Others stain alternating sections dark and light to amp up the illusion. No shiny lacquer. No distracting colors. The wood itself, its grain lines, pores, and subtle sheen, does all the work. Hanging one of these pieces turns an empty wall into an argument between light and shadow. By day, sunlight crawls across the shapes, highlighting certain angles while burying others. By night, a single spotlight throws crisp shadows that double the pattern across your plaster. If you want the piece to truly shine, you light it from an angle, not dead on. Raking light exaggerates every notch and edge, letting the illusion flex its muscle. Building one is part math, part madness. It's measuring twice, cutting once, then realizing you need to measure 5 more times because one wrong angle breaks the trick completely. Each block or strip has to be squared perfectly. No cheat gaps, no sloppy glue seams. You dry fit everything first, step back, squint, adjust. Only when the lines fool you even up close do you lock it down for good. Size sets the mood. Small illusion pieces act like quiet riddles, a subtle moment on a hallway wall that makes guests pause mid-step. Larger ones dominate a living room, grabbing all the conversation away from whatever else you thought was interesting in there. Some installations go floor to ceiling, turning an entire wall into an abstract topography of wood and shadow. These aren't mass-produced decor. They feel intentional, patient, a little obsessive. They ask you to slow down, to see how sunlight angles change throughout the day, to notice how your own eyes can't be trusted to judge what's flat and what's deep. They pair well with minimal spaces, white walls, clean lines, nothing cluttering the room to compete for attention. But they also work as contrast. A warm wooden illusion piece on a dark painted wall feels like a riddle glowing in a cave. Collectors love them for the conversation. You watch people get close, tilt their heads, step left, step right, reach out to touch a block that looks like it's sticking out farther than it actually is. For a moment, everyone forgets their phone, forgets the clock. They're caught in the puzzle. And that's really the soul of it. Abstract illusion wood wall pieces don't explain themselves. They don't care about being useful. They exist to challenge the lazy eye, to remind you that not everything you see is real. To turn simple planks into tricks your brain enjoys getting fooled by. So next time you stand in front of a blank wall, too empty, too honest, too boring, think about building an illusion. Cut your wood. Stack your planes. Test your angles. Let the shadows handle the rest. Make people doubt what they're seeing just for a second. That's all it takes for a plain wall to stop being a surface and start being a question you'll never fully answer.